I didn't mean to find it. I wasn't snooping, wasn't out to catch her in anything. It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind of lazy day that usually meant coffee runs and podcasts on the drive back. She'd taken her car out that morning and asked me to fill up the tank later. When I slid into the driver's seat, I wasn't expecting anything but the lingering warmth of her morning routine. It was when I dropped my keys between the seat and the console that I saw it. Just a glimpse of something white, half hidden beneath an old receipt and a stick of gum. I reached down and pulled it out. A napkin. Crumpled, used, but not with food or coffee. The paper was soft, the kind you get at a nice restaurant, not a fast food place. It had faint smudges of pink lipstick along the edge and a scent that hit me immediately, her perfume. The one I'd bought her 2 Christmases ago. The one she always wore on special nights out. But it wasn't the perfume or the lipstick that stopped me. It was the writing. Last night was something else. Still smells like you. Same time next week. No name. No number. Just a message, scribbled in hasty pen strokes that didn't match her handwriting. Not that I was an expert, but I'd seen her notes on the fridge in cards across post-its she left in my lunch bag. This wasn't hers. I stared at it, heart thudding dully. My first instinct was to laugh it off. Maybe it really was a joke. Maybe someone at work had left it there. Maybe it had nothing to do with her. But the perfume, it was fresh. That sweet, amber and vanilla scent still clung to the napkin, like it had been tucked close to her, like someone had held onto it. I placed it gently in the glove box and closed it. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I'd seen what paranoia could do. My buddy Dylan practically ruined his own relationship because he couldn't trust his girlfriend over a harmless photo. I promised myself I wouldn't be that guy. I wouldn't spiral. But the doubt had already found a foothold. She got home that evening just before dinner. Same shirt as the night before. I noticed it immediately. The faded red flannel I liked on her. Sleeves rolled up, collar just a bit askew. Her hair was tied up messily, like she hadn't bothered to redo it all day. I didn't say anything at first, just watched her. She moved around the kitchen with casual ease, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and asked if I wanted to order Thai or make pasta. Finally, I pulled the napkin from my jacket pocket and set it on the counter. "What's this?" She looked down, raised an eyebrow, and then, "God." She laughed. "Oh my God, Tom. That's from Devin. We had a working lunch in my car on Friday. He's always leaving weird notes. I think he thinks he's funny or something." "Devin?" I repeated, trying to keep my voice even. "Yeah, he's harmless. You've met him, remember? Tall, always talking too much. He leaves those dumb messages on our whiteboard, too. It's just his thing." She dismissed it so easily. No hesitation. No flinching. Just a casual wave of her hand and a half-smile. I watched her closely. Her eyes didn't dart. Her breathing didn't change. If it was an act, it was a damn convincing one. Still, something in her tone. It was too polished. Like she'd expected the question. Like she'd rehearsed that answer. I nodded. "Okay." She turned back to the fridge and pulled out leftovers, humming under her breath like nothing had happened. Like my heart hadn't just been thrown into a blender. That night, lying beside her, I couldn't sleep. She drifted off quickly, breathing slow and steady, arm curled under her pillow. I stared at the ceiling, the napkin's message running loops in my head. "Still smells like you." Who says that as a joke? The next morning, she acted like nothing was wrong. She kissed me goodbye, told me not to forget about the vet appointment for Luna, and reminded me she'd be late again. End of quarter crunch at the office. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something had shifted. Not just in her, but in me. I started to notice things I hadn't before, or maybe I had, but I never paid attention. Her phone was always face down now. She used to leave it unlocked on the table, screen lighting up with memes from her sister or those endless group chats with her friends. Now, there was a passcode I didn't know. Notifications muted. She laughed differently when she got texts. Nervous, like she wasn't supposed to be laughing. And then there were her clothes. Subtle changes. A new pair of earrings I hadn't seen before. A blouse I didn't remember buying. Tags still attached. She said it was a sale find. Maybe it was. But why did she wear it to one of her girls' dinners and not on our last date night? I told myself I was being ridiculous, that I was projecting, that it was just one stupid napkin and a perfectly logical explanation. But deep down, I knew. You can only dismiss so many little things before they start to pile up into a pattern. And when you step back and really look, it's not a pile of coincidences. It's a picture. A big, ugly picture that tells you something's off. I didn't confront her again, not yet. I wasn't ready. I needed more than a crumpled napkin and a feeling in my gut. But from that moment on, I stopped seeing her the way I used to. I stopped assuming the best. I started watching. Not because I wanted to catch her doing something wrong, but because I couldn't unsee the signs anymore. They say hindsight is 20/20ths, but they don't warn you how bitter that clarity feels when it finally kicks in. After the napkin, things didn't just change, they rearranged. The ordinary moments of my life with her started replaying in my head like clips from a movie, but this time, I wasn't the oblivious husband smiling at the screen. I was the audience member yelling at the protagonist to open his damn eyes. Her phone habits had changed months ago, I just hadn't seen it. Back then, I chalked it up to a new privacy update or some work policy. She'd always been quick to toss her phone onto the couch face up while she cooked or read, but lately it never left her side. Bathroom breaks, grocery runs, even folding laundry, her phone was always with her, screen down. And then there was the laughter. Before, when her phone buzzed and she'd laugh, it sounded genuine, bright, uncontrolled. But recently her laugh had changed. It came out tight and clipped, almost like she was trying to hide it. I remember one night we were watching a rerun of a show we both loved and her phone buzzed on the armrest. She glanced at it and that nervous laugh slipped out. I asked who it was and she mumbled something about a group chat with her old college friends. I nodded. She smiled. But something was off. I felt it. Then came the nights out, girls' dinners, team bonding, birthday drinks. They were frequent, sudden, and oddly unscheduled. She used to plan these things days in advance, text me at work about what she'd wear or ask if I minded her being out late. That stopped. Now, she'd drop it on me over dinner or after we'd already crawled into bed. One Friday, she mentioned a spontaneous spa weekend with her college roommate Jenna. I remembered thinking it was strange. I hadn't heard her mention Jenna in over a year. Still, I didn't question it. I even helped her pack. She seemed excited, kissed me goodbye with that same practiced smile, and said she'd send pictures. She didn't. When I texted to ask how it was going, she replied with a single emoji and a LOL, exhausting. And that was it. Radio silence until Sunday night. I didn't press her. I told myself she needed space, time to recharge. I convinced myself that I trusted her. But the doubt? It was spreading like a stain I couldn't scrub out. And then came the photo shoot. It was a simple thing, her idea, actually. She wanted updated pictures for the holidays. Let's go out by the lake, she said. Golden hour, cozy sweaters, the works. We dressed up, laughed on the drive over, and posed like we were still in love. But something happened mid-shoot. The photographer asked her to lean into me and she hesitated. Just for a second. She adjusted her scarf instead, then smiled as if nothing happened. But I felt her pull away, not physically, but emotionally. Like she was playing a part she didn't believe in anymore. The camera clicked and I smiled too. That's what I did best, kept smiling even when I felt myself unraveling. Her business dinners became more frequent. She worked late often, sometimes not coming home until after midnight. She blamed budget reviews and client meetings. Once she came in, heels in hand, hair a little tousled, and I asked how it went. Ugh, she said, collapsing onto the couch. Exhausting. This client doesn't even know what they want. I had to basically redo their whole presentation. I offered to heat up dinner. She said she'd already eaten. With who? I wanted to ask. But I didn't. I just reheated the pasta for myself and tried not to notice the lipstick smudge on her wine glass from the night before that hadn't faded. The real turning point, though, the moment I couldn't ignore, was Chicago. She had a conference there, one of those 3-day leadership summits her company sent her to a few times a year. She left early on a Thursday, said her flight was at 7 a.m. I kissed her goodbye, told her to have a good trip. That afternoon, I texted her, made it okay? Yeah. Busy already? Back-to-back sessions. I'll call tonight. She didn't. The next day, curiosity got the better of me. I opened the shared iPad, which still had her location linked for some reason. I told myself it was just to ease my mind. It showed her dot stationary at a hotel. Not the one where the conference was being held. Not even nearby. It was across the city in a neighborhood I didn't recognize. I looked up the venue she claimed she was attending. It had a partner hotel 2 blocks away. She wasn't there. She was lying. I stared at the screen for a long time, the dot unmoving. I didn't text her, didn't call, just closed the app and sat in the dark for a while, trying to figure out what to do next. When she came back 2 days later, she acted like everything was fine. She tossed her suitcase into the laundry room and said the conference was so. When I asked which speaker she saw, she waved me off. Too many to remember, she said, yawning. It was a blur. I wanted to scream, to confront her, to pull up the location and demand answers. But I didn't. I needed more than just dots on a screen. I needed something real. So I waited. I started paying attention, cataloging every oddity, every offhand comment, every look she gave me that didn't feel quite real. I started keeping track, mentally, quietly, like assembling a puzzle that had been sitting unfinished on our coffee table for months. And the pieces kept coming. A receipt tucked into her coat pocket for a bar we'd never been to together. A voicemail from a number she said was spam, but which showed up again 2 days later. A jacket I didn't recognize hanging in the back of her car. Little things, insignificant on their own, but together, they painted a picture I couldn't ignore. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I was waking up to the fact that the woman I loved, the one I'd built my life around, was slipping away or maybe had already left. I didn't want to believe it. I still held onto the hope that there was a reasonable explanation, some twist I hadn't considered. But the more I watched, the more I remembered, the clearer it became. She wasn't just pulling away. She was building a life that didn't include me, and I was finally starting to see it for what it was. I wasn't planning to follow her. That wasn't the kind of man I thought I was. But when she left that Saturday afternoon with a rushed, "I'll be back in a few hours," something inside me stirred, cold, electric. I told myself I just needed air, needed to clear my head. Instead, I got into my car and stayed far enough behind hers that I wouldn't be spotted. She took the highway toward downtown. No traffic, windows cracked like she wasn't in a hurry. I tailed her past the mall, past her office building, past the area where her supposed friend Amanda lived. She didn't stop. Not until she pulled into a side street I knew well. It was the block with Jasper's Cafe, this cozy little place we'd gone to for our first anniversary. Back then, it had felt quaint, romantic even. I remember how she'd leaned across the table and laughed so loud the older couple next to us smiled. But now, my chest tightened. She wasn't supposed to be there. I parked around the corner and walked to the cafe on foot, heart hammering. I stopped at the side window, angled just right, partially covered by ivy. Through the glass, I saw her. She was sitting in a booth near the back, head tilted, smile wide and easy. She looked comfortable, relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in months. Her hand was resting on the table, fingers lightly brushing the rim of her coffee cup. Across from her sat a man. He was facing slightly away from me, but I recognized him. Dylan. Not my buddy Dylan, the one who'd ruined his marriage with paranoia. No, this Dylan worked with her. He was in the background of stories she told, always jokingly referred to as that spreadsheet guy, or the one who brings donuts and ruins everyone's diets. That guy. He wasn't some mystery man. He was familiar, and the way he leaned toward her, shoulder nearly brushing hers, eyes locked on her face like she was the only thing that existed. It told me everything I didn't want to know. Then he reached out. His hand slid across the table, slow and deliberate, and rested gently on her waist. She didn't move. She didn't flinch. She smiled. I turned away so fast I almost stumbled into the shrubs. The world tilted. My chest constricted. I didn't go in, didn't storm over to confront her. I didn't shout or cry or throw anything. I just walked back to my car, climbed in, and sat with my hands on the wheel. The heat inside the car made the silence unbearable. I'd always thought I'd know the moment it happened, the moment the truth slapped me in the face. I figured there'd be yelling or some grand confession. But this, watching her touch him like that in the same place she once held my hand and told me she loved me, this was worse. I didn't drive home right away. I pulled into a gas station and sat there for a long time, staring at the pump. I didn't even need gas. I just needed stillness. Something to anchor me before my brain spiraled into 1,000 ugly directions. When I finally got back home, she was already there, sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. She looked up when I came in and smiled. "Hey, you were out for a while," she said. "Everything okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, just needed to clear my head." She gave me this curious look, then shrugged. I picked up dinner. "Ty okay?" I told her it was fine. We sat across from each other at the table and made small talk about shows we weren't watching together anymore. She never mentioned the cafe. Never said a word about who she saw or what they talked about. Just carried on like the woman I saw laughing with Dylan didn't exist. But I knew better now. The next day, I went back to the cafe. Alone this time. I ordered a black coffee and sat in the same booth she had. I didn't know what I was hoping to feel, some connection, some answer. Instead, I just felt cold. The barista came by, someone I didn't recognize. Maybe a new hire. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I lied. "Just thinking." I left a big tip for no reason and walked out without touching the coffee. From that point on, everything I did felt like it was happening in a dream. I'd wake up in the morning and look over at her, curled up and peaceful, and I'd wonder if she knew how much I'd seen. At work, I couldn't focus. I'd stare at my computer screen for hours, trying to convince myself not to lose it. I needed proof. More than a hand on her waist and a smile. I needed something undeniable. Something she couldn't explain away with laughter and a shrug. So I started collecting. Phone records, credit card statements, calendar screenshot *TS. I even took photos of her car when it was parked in places she hadn't told me she was going. I felt like a stranger in my own life, like some detective investigating a case I already knew the ending to. And through it all, she carried on like nothing was wrong. She kissed me goodnight. She left sticky notes on the fridge. She posted pictures of our dog on Instagram, captioned with little heart emojis and inside jokes that used to mean something. But the thing that broke me the most? She still wore the necklace I gave her on our 2nd anniversary. That little silver charm shaped like a compass because I told her she was my true north. She wore it while lying to me. She wore it while touching him. She wore it like it still meant something. One night, I stood in the bathroom staring at my reflection while she showered. Steam fogged up the mirror, but I could still see the outline of my face, drawn, tired, haunted. I didn't recognize the man looking back at me. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to her soft breathing from down the hall. I couldn't stay like this. Couldn't keep pretending. The next morning, I took a walk. No destination. Just blocks of cracked sidewalks and overgrown lawns. I ended up outside Dylan's apartment building, information I'd pulled from a coworker directory she left open one night. I stood across the street, watching the windows, wondering if she'd been there. I didn't go up. I didn't need to. I already had everything I needed. That evening, when she came home, she found me at the kitchen table with a folder in front of me. Inside were the pictures, the location logs, the receipts. She paused in the doorway, eyes flicking to the folder, then to me. "What's that?" "You tell me," I said, my voice low. She took a step forward, then stopped. Her eyes searched mine for a hint, a clue, something. When she didn't say anything, I opened the folder and pushed it toward her. "I went to Jasper's," I said. "Saw you with Dylan." She didn't reach for the folder. "I can explain," she said, voice trembling. "Please don't," I replied. "Just don't lie anymore." She looked down. Swallowed. And in that moment, I saw the walls she'd built up start to crack. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered. "It wasn't planned. It started one night, and then you kept going." Silence. "I didn't know how to tell you," she said. "I didn't want to hurt you. You didn't want to be caught." Her face twisted like I'd slapped her. "I never stopped loving you," she said, almost too quietly to hear. I didn't respond. Because she had. She'd stopped loving me the moment she let someone else touch her like that. I didn't leave that night. I waited. Waited while she sobbed into her hands. Waited while she offered half explanations and broken logic, like saying the words out loud would somehow rearrange the damage. I waited until her crying slowed into silence, until the room settled into the kind of stillness you feel in the seconds after a fire dies. And then I got up, walked past her without a word, and went to bed alone. 3 days later, I was gone. No explosion, no shouting match. No scenes. Just a quiet decision made in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday. I packed a single duffel, some clothes, my laptop, a photo of my parents I'd taken off the fridge, and the folder of evidence I still hadn't shredded. I didn't even take my pillow. I wanted nothing that smelled like her. I left a note on the kitchen table. Not poetic, not angry. Just, I need to disappear for a while. Please don't look for me. Then I drove. I didn't have a destination in mind at first. I took highways at random, changed directions every time I saw a familiar exit. Eventually, I landed in a city I'd only ever passed through, a post-industrial town that smelled like metal and dust. It was perfect. No history. No expectations. No one who knew my name. I found a mechanic's shop that looked half abandoned but had a hand-painted sign in the window, room for rent above. Cash only. That's all I needed. The guy who ran the place was named Jorge. He had a beard that made him look older than he probably was and eyes that didn't ask questions. When I told him I needed a place for a month, maybe longer, he handed me a key and said, "Don't break anything." The room was basic, tiny, drafty, with a twin bed, a hot plate, and a window that looked out over the parking lot. But it had a lock, and it didn't smell like her shampoo, and that was enough. I paid cash every week. Got a burner phone from a gas station. Changed my name legally after 2 weeks, nothing dramatic, just a middle name turned first and a last name borrowed from my mother's side. I even got a new driver's license. It felt weird holding that piece of plastic, seeing a name that wasn't mine printed in blocky letters. But it also felt clean. I got a job at a 24-hour hardware store a few blocks from the shop. Night shifts mostly. They were always short-staffed and I liked the quiet. Stocking shelves, organizing screws by size and color, listening to the low hum of the overhead lights, it became a routine. A rhythm I could survive by. I kept to myself. Didn't tell anyone where I was from. Didn't answer questions I didn't need to. If someone asked what brought me here, I'd shrug and say, needed a reset. People seemed to get that more than I expected. Time passed. I kept my head down. Took long walks at night. Ate terrible takeout and sat on the curb behind the shop to eat it. Every now and then, I'd take out the cardboard box I'd stashed in the closet, photos, old birthday cards, letters she wrote me when we first started dating. The napkin. The receipts. I'd look through them slowly, like some sick ritual, then put everything back. One night, maybe a month after I arrived, I got an email alert from an old account I'd forgotten I still had access to. It was linked to a cloud service I used to use for document backups, tax stuff, travel plans, scanned receipts. The alert said a delivery confirmation had been sent to my old name. At first, I thought it was junk. Then I saw the address. It was an office building on the outskirts of my new town. I sat frozen for a while, staring at the screen. There was no reason, no possible reason, that anything with my old name should be coming here. No one knew I was here. No one. Unless. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I went to a diner across town and bought a paper. Checked the classified section for the first time in years. My heart didn't stop pounding the whole time. But there was nothing. No misconnections. No cryptic messages. I felt like I was losing it. A few days later, I took a different route home from work. The sun was just starting to rise, casting that soft pink glow on the buildings. I turned down a side street I didn't normally take. And there it was. Her car. Parked 3 streets over from the shop. Same make, same model. Same stupid bumper sticker she refused to peel off even after it faded. I drove right past it. Didn't stop. Didn't get out. But that moment, seeing it there, just sitting in the early morning quiet, it sent my entire new life into a tailspin. Had she found me? Was she watching me? Or worse, was she living nearby? Back at the shop, I asked Jorge if he'd seen anyone looking for me. He grunted and said, "I don't look at people who aren't looking at me." I didn't know if that meant yes or no. Probably both. I started scanning my surroundings more. Not just glancing, studying. Looking for her in crowds. Peeking through windows at the diner. Checking for taillights behind me. I wasn't being paranoid. At least, that's what I told myself. 1 week after spotting the car, she walked into the store. It was early, just past 7 a.m. I just finished stocking the adhesives aisle when I heard the door chime. I peeked around the end cap and nearly dropped the box in my hands. There she was. She didn't look surprised. Didn't rush over or freeze. She just walked in like a customer, like she'd never broken my life apart. She stopped at the counter, picked up a flashlight from the display bin, and looked around until her eyes found mine. "Hey, stranger," she said, smiling like we'd just bumped into each other at the farmer's market. I didn't say anything. She tapped the flashlight against her palm. "Didn't expect to find you here. Funny how life works, huh?" I stayed behind the shelf. "Why are you here?" She shrugged. "Passing through. Thought I saw someone familiar. Took a chance. T. She'd found me. Tracked me. Maybe followed me the day I saw her car." "I'm not who you're looking for," I said. She tilted her head. "Don't do that, Tom. Don't pretend I don't know you." I know you better than anyone. That hit like a punch. Maybe because it used to be true. Maybe because she still believed it. You should go. She nodded slowly, then placed the flashlight on the counter and turned to leave. Before she reached the door, she said, "I'll see you around." I didn't answer. She came back 3 more times that week. Each time, she bought something small: zip ties, a pack of batteries, a screwdriver. Each time, she pretended it was a coincidence. But each time, her presence chipped away at the distance I'd worked so hard to create. She left little things in my path: coffee on the hood of my car with my old order written on the sleeve. A Polaroid photo from a beach trip we took slipped into my mailbox. A note written in the handwriting I used to love: "We were real." You don't have to forget that. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't remorse. It was strategy. She wasn't trying to fix anything. She was trying to get back in quietly, slowly, like smoke under a door. And part of me wanted to let her. But the other part, the one that had stared at her through that cafe window, knew better. This wasn't about love. This was about control. I started keeping account: each time she reappeared, each attempt she made to anchor herself in my new world. The flashlight trip? That was 1. The batteries? 2. The takeout order left on my windshield, still warm in its paper bag with my name written on top in looping letters only she used? That was 3. By the end of that week, we were at 7. She never pushed. That was the thing. She never said too much, never asked questions that gave away how much she already knew. She was careful. Precise. Like every step, every glance was choreographed. When she showed up at the laundromat 2 blocks from the hardware store, I didn't say a word. She nodded at me like we were old neighbors. Sat at the machine next to mine even though the place was half empty. Loaded a bag that looked barely full. She wore the same hoodie she used to steal from my closet and still had my initials faintly stitched on the inside tag. She didn't mention it. Instead, she folded her laundry in silence, humming an old song we used to play in the car on long drives. When her cycle finished, she packed up and walked out, but not before slipping something into my laundry basket. A granola bar. My favorite kind. The kind I hadn't eaten in months. The kind she used to keep in her bag just in case I got hangry. I didn't eat it. I threw it away. But I kept the wrapper. The next day, a small paperback book showed up on my doorstep. No note, but I recognized the title immediately. It was a novel we had read together long ago before things started unraveling. Inside the front cover, in faint pencil, was a single line underlined twice. Some people return because they're sorry. Others return because they still believe they have a chance. She was never careless, never random. Each item, each memory she conjured was a trigger, a nudge toward the past. I saw it for what it was. She wasn't apologizing. She was planting reminders. It took me back to those early days after the affair when her apologies were all weightless phrases. "I never meant to hurt you, you were always enough, it just happened." She said them with that tearful sincerity that could melt walls. But now in this quiet, methodical campaign to re-enter my life, her words were gone. This was something else entirely. Manipulation dressed as sentiment. One night after work, I found her sitting on the steps outside my building. She looked up and gave me a soft smile like I was the one who had disappeared without warning. No accusation in her eyes. Just that same patient calm. "Can we talk?" she asked, brushing hair behind her ear. "Just 5 minutes." I stood there, keys in hand, heart pounding harder than it should have. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no either. She took that as enough and started talking. "I know I don't get to ask you for anything," she said. "I know I blew it. All of it. I'm not here to justify what I did. She looked away, her voice quiet. "I needed to see if you were okay." I raised an eyebrow. "You followed me across state lines to check if I was okay?" "No," she admitted. "I followed you because I couldn't stand not knowing if you were ever going to look me in the eye again." There it was. The honesty. The vulnerability. The performance. I said nothing. She continued. "I'm not asking to come back. I'm not stupid. Tom, I miss you. I miss who we were. I miss the way we used to laugh about stupid things. The way you always knew when I was about to cry before I even knew it. You were my home. I wanted to feel something: sympathy, nostalgia, even anger. But mostly, I felt exhausted." I sat down 2 steps above her. "You had a home. You torched it." She winced but didn't argue. "I didn't come here to make you forgive me," she said. "I came here because I realized that no matter what happens next, you deserve to know that it wasn't all fake. We were real." I laughed bitterly. "You sound like one of those bad breakup movies." "I've been watching a lot of bad breakup movies," she said, trying to smile. "Helps me feel like less of a villain." I looked at her, really looked. She seemed older, somehow less polished, less curated. Her eyes had bags under them. Her nails were unpainted. There was a tear in the seam of her jeans. Maybe she was hurting too. But that didn't make it right. You didn't lose me because you made a mistake, I said. You lost me because every time you had the chance to come clean, you chose comfort over honesty. She nodded slowly. I know. And now? I don't know, she whispered. I don't know what I want. I just know I don't want to be someone you hate. I stood. You're not someone I hate. You're just someone I can't trust. Her eyes filled with tears. Not the dramatic kind. Just quiet, steady disappointment. I should go, she said, rising. I'm staying in town for a few more days. If you ever want to talk, really talk, I'll be around. She walked off into the night, hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands. I didn't stop her. I didn't sleep much that night. The next day, another package showed up at my door. A flash drive. No label. No note. I stared at it for a long time before plugging it into my laptop. It was organized meticulously. A folder labeled context. Inside were dozens of files, PDFs, voice memos, scanned pages. Notes. Photos. *TS of texts. Audio recordings. Most of it came from Oliver. That was the name I hadn't heard until that day. And apparently he was the man behind the curtain. She had been involved with him before Dylan. Before the cafe. Before the napkin. Oliver was older. Strategic. The kind of man who didn't need charm because he had power. He worked with her, mentored her, gave her opportunities, and in exchange, she gave him alibis. Alibis like me. That's what she said in the voice memo dated 3 weeks earlier. Tom never suspected anything. He thought I was his partner. But really, I was just using him to cover for Oliver. The night the audio cut off. Another file picked up later. When Oliver died, I needed to be seen. I needed to be accounted for. So I made sure Tom and I had dinner reservations. He didn't even question it. God, he was always so trusting. I sat in stunned silence. I hadn't just been betrayed. I'd been *P***nized. Used to build an airtight timeline for someone else's protection. Used to keep suspicion off her. She didn't cheat out of boredom. She wasn't just unfaithful. She was involved in something calculated. Something dark. There were pictures of other women, too. Women who had stories that paralleled mine, different names, same arc. They'd been alibis. Distractions. Covers. She hadn't sent the flash drive out of guilt. She sent it as a final test. Would I stay silent? Would I finally understand? Would I join her, even now, in keeping the past buried? She underestimated me again. I stared at that flash drive for hours after. Played the audio files over and over, listening for nuance, for hesitation. There wasn't any. Her voice was steady. Detached. Like she was reciting facts for a meeting, not confessing to using the man who once kissed her forehead in his sleep as a shield for someone else's sins. Oliver. I didn't know the whole story, still don't. But what I gathered was enough. He died under suspicious circumstances and she needed a clean timeline. She needed someone credible. Loving. Oblivious. Me. Our dinner reservation that night wasn't a sweet gesture. It was her alibi. I was never her partner. I was her cover. And Dylan? He was just the last chapter. The one that finally made me wake up. It wasn't heartbreak that pushed me over the edge, it was the sheer scope of the manipulation. I hadn't just lost her, I'd lost the version of myself who thought love meant something. I couldn't carry that weight anymore. So I left again. This time for good. I packed only what mattered, the flash drive, copies of the files, and a weathered notebook where I'd been tracking every detail for weeks. I didn't say goodbye to Jorge. I didn't leave a note. I just locked the room behind me, caught a train out of the city, and didn't look back. I had one last stop to make. There was a journalist, Mira. She'd once interviewed me for a community piece when I did volunteer work. Smart, skeptical, and not afraid to get her hands dirty. I emailed her anonymously, dropped a burner number, and asked if she'd meet. We sat on a park bench under a dying oak tree. I handed her the drive and a sealed envelope with my account inside. Everything you need is in there, I said. She looked at me hard. You sure you want to go public with this? I don't care if my name's on it, I told her. Just make sure hers is. She nodded once. We didn't shake hands. Just parted. 3 weeks later, the article dropped. It didn't name me, but it named her and Oliver. Exposed everything. The manipulation, the women, the alibis, the tangled web they used to keep their reputations clean while they played puppeteer behind the scenes. It blew up online. Her name trended for all the wrong reasons. She lost her job. Her professional network disavowed her. The statements came quickly, we had no knowledge, we do not condone. The usual. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even read the full article after it went live. I moved to a quiet coastal town no one had reason to look for me in. Rented a garage near the docks and started repairing old boats. My hands stopped shaking after a while. The nights grew quieter. I stopped dreaming about the cafe window. I kept the box of memories, but I never opened it again. Not because I was avoiding the past, but because I'd finally outgrown it. I wasn't free because I escaped her. I was free because I chose not to carry her anymore.